Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Tien-Tai is what we're in the middle of in Buddhism Reference. By the way, if you go to, well, you're on the channel now, but if you go to, I think it's the home page of the channel, where that middle navigation bar is with playlists and videos and posts and about, and of course the search bar that I'm always reminding you guys to use, because it searches within this channel, not all of YouTube, so you can find with certain keywords, you could find videos. I have posted my first poll, and a few of you have already seen it. It should be under posts. I'm not sure where it shows up. Again, it's my first one. Somebody suggested or asked if I might consider doing a read-through with analysis, as I have with several versions of the Lotus Sutra, the Lankavatara, the Vimalakirti, of the Kigan Sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, or the Flower Garland Sutra. It's known by many names depending on the language and the translation. That is a hugely long discourse, mainly because it has these impossible naming conventions of all these different personages, bodhisattvas of this, that, and the other. It is the first sermon delivered by Shakyamuni right after his enlightenment. And in it, he basically described what the purification of the senses and the experience and the being of enlightenment is like. And of course, since nobody had attained enlightenment other than he at the time, it confused people. They just didn't understand what he was talking about or how it could be. So he didn't teach it very long, 2-3 weeks maybe. Much later on, some scholars, teachers, picked up on this early sutra, the translations of this sutra, and they established their own schools based on it, right? You've heard of the Flower Garland School, yeah? And accounts vary from the sudden enlightenment to the build of enlightenment, all different opinions over the millennia. To our practice of Nichiren's doctrine of the Lotus Sutra, Lotus Sutra Buddhism, which fully falls within Tien-Tai's discussion at the moment. I did a whole series of the Lotus Sutra with expurgate or cleaned up language, so it's not biased by religions and other things, politics and so forth. Cleaned it up as best I could and annotated it extensively with insights on the Lotus teachings and the relationship of Nichiren to the Lotus teachings. So that's a TLK Lotus Dharma Sutra, Threefold Lotus Dharma Sutra. So you can get that book in e-book or hardcover or softcover, paperback. And I'm saying two things at once here. The poll, getting back to the poll on this channel, is to either do a reading of that sort with Avatamsaka, or one that might be more relatable because of the Lotus Sutra is the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. Or should I just not invest a bunch of time into doing that because it doesn't directly relate to our Nichiren modern practice of Lotus Sutra? Those are the three options in the poll. Take a look, give me your thoughts. Related to this is a first-time thing on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/TLK, and I will have in the shop, the first items in the shop is I have grouped together all of the videos for the TLK Threefold Lotus Dharma Sutra videos. There's almost 70 of them. There's actually 65 on the Lotus Sutra proper, and there's a couple of additional sutras or talks that I gave in relation to the Lotus Sutra. So there's like 69 in total. And selling as a block all of those videos, not sure if they're delivered as a zip file, several zip files. I'm not sure how Patreon is doing it, but they've allowed me to post. If you don't want to do a membership or if you want to do a donation, but you'd really like to get something other than just giving your money, this is a way to get all of the series of all of those videos with one fee. I think it's $50 or $60. And I did the same thing with this book. So you get all the videos, which I'm not done with, obviously, and I'll continue to add until I'm completed with the entire book. But just wanted you to know that's another way on Patreon that you can help support the channel. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Let's get back to Tien-Tai. We got to early figures in Tien-Tai and Tien-Tai as a teaching, a culminating teaching of Zhiyi's lifetime, right? The Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, if you'll remember, much earlier, Tien-Tai's time was in the sixth and into the 7th century A.D. And Nagarjuna is around, they think, around the 1st century A.D. or 100 BCE. BCE 8. How do they say that? Before Christ? No, it's after death, so it's A.D. Anyway, Nagarjuna is traditionally taken to be the first patriarch of the Tien-Tai school, probably because he was such an analytic scholar. And Tien-Tai is credited with analyzing all of the extant teachings that had come from India into China, as well as many that were added by Chinese teachers, schools, and sifting them out to find which are the core teachings, which are most likely the words of or closest to the words of Shakyamuni, and which are add-ons for particular sectarian needs, political needs, whatever. This happens in everything. But Nagarjuna being the first to argue things to the nth degree to get at the root, right? And not take off on flights of whatever. His school, the Madhyamaka works, associated with Nagarjuna, like the Chung-Lun, or the Madhya Mahaka Sastra, Taisho 1564, and the Da-Ji-Du-Lun, the Taisho number 1509, are important sources for the Tien-Tai school. The 6th century Dhyana master, Zhiyi Wen, is traditionally considered to be the second patriarch of the Tien-Tai school. Zhiyi Wen studied the works of Nagarjuna and is said to have awakened to the profound meaning of Nagarjuna's words, quote, "All conditioned phenomena I speak of as empty and are but false names which also indicate the mean." And we've talked about this in different ways many times, that it doesn't mean that things don't exist, but that they exist via the conjuring of the mind, the skandhas, the eyes, ears, smell, taste, all of the aspects that we have of the physical world, so that our brain can conjure an identification. This is that, that is not this, so on and so forth, all the way, and an identification of self via identifying everything in our environment. This is samsara. That is the definition of samsara. That database, that immense database warehouse of identifying differences and discriminations in Buddhism is seen as the function of the engine of life as it appears in the mind, the physical mind. And it's important in Buddhism to understand that that's what that is. It's a construct. What we think of a tree, a rock, the image in the mirror itself, as things that we have thoroughly defined, does not, that definition, make something ineffable, permanent, made of itself. There's no molecule in the cosmos called mirror or wall or tree, right? Fundamentally, everything is made of energy. And when we can shift our thinking, and it's not easy, especially if you've been practicing for a while, you know, it's not easy to disconnect from that association, that identification of thing, which, by the way, ipso facto defines the self, the me. And I don't mean the body, I mean the me-ness in the mind. It's defined by the materiality of everything we perceive in the cosmos through our materiality. The goal here is to shed that materiality in order to see the ultimate truth of all phenomena, that everything is momentum. Nothing is static, nothing exists other than through an experience of the expression of energy. All of the expressions, myriad, uncountable, unfathomable expressions of energy. And not only that, all of that experience coming through our own immensely huge filter of being. Just try to imagine, and you may have felt this through your chanting and your practice already, when you finish your practice or you finish your daimoku, and you take a breath and you look around the room, everything seems lighter and unqualified, just for a few moments. Everything almost like your eyes have 7-Up in them, little bubbles of beingness. It doesn't take long, though, for the samsaric mind to go, I know what that is, right? But imagine staying in that froth of being, moving through time, feeling unmoored, and yet comfortable, as though embraced by the engine of life. This is the sensation of the Dharma, enlightenment, being detached, disconnected, nirvana. Samsara put aside, put to sleep, to allow the ninth consciousness, the Buddha mind, to experience nowness, moment to moment to moment to moment, right? And they were just finding ways to talk about how do we get to that? How do we experience that? This is why the Avatamsaka, to get back to that introduction, is so confusing, because Shakyamuni just starts there. This is what it's like. And everyone's going, it's what it's like? Yeah, it sounds amazing. Right? All right. So, what Nagarjuna calls that is that moment when you look around and everything is effervescent, is that when you realize that it's like putting your hand through air. There's nothing there, right? There's nothing there. Am I losing frames? No, I'm doing okay. It's just an illusion of being there that we maintain in our materialist, samsaric mind in order to relate in the Saha world, in the physicalness of the cosmos. But that's not where our mind can reach in order to experience what motivates the entire cosmos, let alone you and I. So both are coexisting in us, right? I've often said you can't understand or reach enlightenment without this samsaric self, this Saha world physical beingness. It's our sentient mind and the beingness that provides, that emerges, that sentient mind emerges from or of. Otherwise, we would never experience this. We would just be like other animals. We would just do instinctually what we need to do to keep being until that ends. But we wouldn't know the experience. We wouldn't understand the experience, and therefore never really engage it to modify it, right? The 6th century Dhyana master, well, we already said that, Hui Wen, later transmitted his teachings to Chan master Nanyue Shi Si, and I apologize to the Chinese for not being able to speak their language or indeed these English phonetic translations accurately. I'm just trying my best. Who is traditionally figured as the 3rd patriarch. During meditation, he is said to have realized the Lotus Samadhi. So you see, the lotus was well known throughout all of this history. It just wasn't made the center stone of practice and teaching, right? Many, if you'll remember, while reading the Lotus Sutra and other Nichiren Gosho, there's something I could put together as a contained what I was saying earlier on Patreon. I've got the Lotus Sutra, my edition, and this book, but I guess a Gosho that you could purchase the entire series of. Ooh, that's a big one. That's hundreds of videos. Anyway, back to this. Sorry. He authored the Ta Ching Chi Quan, the Mahayana Samatha Vipassana, and he experienced that, what I was just talking about, that Buddhahood, that being one with the engine of life, rather than relying on identification of stillness, which is if you're still or you're working for stillness in this cosmos, you're actually retarding yourself. And by retarding, I mean everything is motion, momentum. So if you stop that momentum, where are you? You're left behind. You are falling backwards into the past. Why would you want to be there? There's nothing there. It's a construct. Do you see? It's empty. Life is here now, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Be with it. Can you conceive of that? Hard to understand. This is why we chant. This is why we unite our samsaric mind and we distract the monkeys in it so that that mind can go deeper into our consciousnesses and enliven that 9th consciousness going through that Gohanzon transition, right? So that we can experience, opening the eye of Buddha, yes? And with that eye, now we are in the moment-to-moment beingness of the cosmos. Right with it, in the momentum. Zhiyi then transmitted his teachings to Zhiyi. Zhiyi is the Tien-Tai scholar, lived 538 to 597, traditionally figured as the 4th patriarch of Tien-Tai, who is said to have practiced the Lotus Samadhi and to have become enlightened quickly. He authored many treatises, such as Explanation of the Buddhist Texts, and especially systematic manuals of various lengths, which explain and enumerate methods of Buddhist practice and meditation. The great concentration and insight comes to mind, yes? The above lineage was proposed by Buddhists of later times and do not reflect the popularity of the monks at Zhiyi's time. So, Zhiyi, or however you choose to pronounce it. Painting of Sharmana Zhiyi. So, I found a painting of him. I didn't include it in the book. But scholars such as Paul Lawrence Swanson consider Zhiyi to have been the major founder of the Tien-Tai school, as well as one of the greatest Chinese Buddhist philosophers. He was the first to systematize and popularize the complex synthesis of Tien-Tai doctrine as an original Chinese tradition. Zhiyi analyzed and organized all the agamas, the early teachings, right, and Mahayana sutras into a system of 5 periods and 8 types of teaching. For example, many elementary doctrines and bridging concepts had been taught early in the Buddha's advent, when the vast majority of people during his time were not very ready or yet ready to grasp the ultimate truth. These agamas were an upaya, or skillful means, right? What's the other word? Skillful means in a device, anyway. An example of the Buddha employing his boundless wisdom to lead those people towards the truth. Subsequent teachings delivered to more advanced followers thus represent a more complete and accurate picture of the Buddha's teachings, and did away with some of the philosophical crutches introduced earlier. And still to this day, there are sectarian pieces of Buddhism, peoples in schools of Buddhism who fight vociferously that their school is complete and yours is not, and it's so silly. But Zhiyi is greatly responsible for putting order to all of that, to demonstrate without doubt, without question, that there was a stepladder of teachings, just like anything we teach human beings, yes? We don't teach a 7-year-old in elementary school quantum physics. It's just, I hear you saying, well, maybe we should. Even the language of teaching that would elude a 7-year-old, yeah? We have to teach early concepts so that the mind can expand and embrace these ways of thinking, and then apply those ways of thinking to new ways of thinking. And only then can you get rid of the provisional little skillful means, right, and devices we used to get them to understand a concept before they can actually make use of it, yeah? Buddhism was taught the same way over 50 years. All right. Zhiyi's classification culminated with the Lotus Sutra, which he held to be the supreme synthesis of Buddhist doctrine. The difference on Zhiyi's explanation to the Golden Light Sutra caused a debate during the Song dynasty. Right? This is the struggle with Amida and all of the different sects, Pure Land amongst others, that took to chanting Amida Buddha's name in order to enter his Pure Land, totally misunderstanding the teachings. And if you need more information on that, I have a video compilation of the Virmalakirti Sutra, where the whole sutra goes to great lengths to show that there are not 2 lands or 3. There is only one land, the land of your mind, your sentient perception of this life of yours and mine. And the land, whether it is an impure land, samsara, or the golden light land of the Buddha, is a matter of your perception. It's the same land, but how you perceive it, how you experience it. That's the whole ball of wax here. Zhiyi's Tien-Tai school received much imperial support during the Sui dynasty. Because of this, it was the largest Buddhist school at the beginning of the Tang dynasty and suffered because of its close relationship with the house of Sui. Following Zhiyi was Zhanran. Zhanran, after Zhiyi, Tien-Tai, which is the name of the mountain, so you understand why this name is prominent in the school. Tien-Tai was eclipsed for a time by newer schools such as East Asian Yogacara, called Faxian Zhong in China, and Huiyan schools until the sixth patriarch, Jingji Zhanran, 711 to 782 in the 8th century, revived the school and defended its doctrine against rival schools such as Huahuan and Faxian. The debates between the Faxian school and the Tien-Tai school concerning the notion of universal Buddhahood were particularly heated, with the Faxian school asserting that different beings had different natures and therefore would reach different states of enlightenment, while the Tien-Tai school argued in favor of the Lotus Sutra teaching of Buddhahood for all beings. And as you've heard me say many times, that essential nature of the engine of life that is available to all things, let alone sentient beings, is what we call Tathagata. And when we manifest that potential in the physical realm, our sentient mind manifests it as what we call Buddha. It's the same thing, but in a different state. Zhanran's view of Buddha nature was expanded in his Jingam Pi, or Diamond Scalpel commentary, which is the locus classicus of the doctrine of the Buddha nature of insentient beings. According to Shuman Chen, Zhanran writes, "Every blade of grass, tree, pebble, and particle of dust is perfectly endowed with the Buddha nature, Tathagata. The practitioner of the perfect teaching, from beginning to end, knows that ultimate principle is non-dual and that there are no objects apart from the mind." You see what I was saying earlier? Objects, things, are conjured reference maps that we humans make for relationships with the physical world. But all of that is a conjuring. It doesn't make it real. What is real is that all of this stuff is expressing potential moment to moment to moment. Okay. Who then is sentient? What then is insentient? Within the assembly of the Lotus, there is no discrimination. So this is a question that comes up a lot when people read Nichiren. What does he mean that all sentient and insentient beings can attain enlightenment? How does a rock attain Buddhahood? They're missing the point. Do you see? Long before Nichiren, they were hashing this out. I wrote here, and I hope I'm not missing a chunk because it starts in the middle of a sentence. I have to double check. That makes me... Provides his rationale... Oh, okay, so this continues Zhanran saying, provides his rationale primarily from the perspective of the all-pervasive quality of Buddha nature, which he considers synonymous with suchness. You've heard me talk about this. This rationale indicates that external, tangible objects like water, buildings, and flora, formless sounds and smells, and internal thoughts or ideas all possess Buddha nature, because the engine of life is an expression of Tathagata-ness, suchness. Things appear to be in a way that they appear to be because they are constantly in formation in momentum. This is the way to understand the physical world, not the apprehension of something as static and therefore made, but simply a moment-to-moment instantiation of a potential being expressed. It's a lot of words. It may sound like word salad, but using language, it's difficult to encapsulate that moment-to-moment reality. Yes? This is because Shakyamuni Buddha and any other Buddhas, meritorious qualities in their practice leading to enlightenment and in the resultant realization, do not reject anything, instead embracing everything. In the Tien-Tai terminology, the Buddha and all beings mutually include, interpervade, and are identical to each other, one another. You follow? This is an essential step in regarding the 3,000 realms in every single thought moment of life. All right. Post-Dang crisis and song revival, the Quashing Temple, a panorama of Tien-Tai Mountain. After Zangran Tien-Tai, well, I think I will leave that for the next video because I sense this is getting a little long. Yeah, we're good, a half hour. So we will continue. And I told you guys, this is going to be a video in several parts because Tien-Tai is he's a big chunk of history, and I'm just scraping the surface here for you. But I thought it was well worth diving into it a little bit, even if only to whet your taste buds to do your own research. But he figures so importantly and prominently in Nichiren's career of study. Yeah, Nichiren studied deeply the Tien-Tai doctrines of Saicho, Dengyo, and Miaolo, and the scholarship all the way back, and certainly the Lotus Sutra. So, and very well versed in Shakyamuni's sutras throughout, as well as Chinese folklore and Indian folklore that was used at the time to help with skillful means. Still can't remember the word that goes with devices, but at any rate, yeah, Nichiren, phenomenal scholar in that regard. Our mentor, our teacher. Anyway, we'll continue with this, and I think it's my hope that talking around and through these words, it will become obvious how Nichiren relates with all of this and how it fed into the concepts that he would later discuss about earthly desires or enlightenment and all of those kinds of, this is what they come from, yes? All right. Thank you for your practice and your time, your dedication. Thank you for your support. Without it, I just couldn't keep all of this up. Please visit the website. There's always changes and additions happening there. Don't be afraid to make comments, and if you're shy about it, you can email me directly. See that post on this channel, and check out Patreon if you will, to see what's in the shop, so that you can get groups of videos. If you have suggestions on that, I'd love to hear them. Yeah, I'm going to work on that Gosho one. I don't know if I can put all that together because I have different source material for that. But yeah, grouping together a bunch of videos isn't mind-bogglingly difficult, but it's kind of like having a book, only me, like an audiobook, talking through it and adding my 2 cents. There may be some value in that. It's maybe easier to doing a search, because you could do a search on this very channel for Nichiren Gosho, and or look at the playlists. As I've got a playlist for Nichiren Gosho, and I've got a playlist for Nichiren Gosho 2, which is a different source material, right? So you could just do it on the channel. But if it's something that you want to be able to download and keep on a USB stick, like a library thing, you might find that very useful for you as well. All right. As always, take care of your health, keep your practice strong, and I will see you in the next one. All right. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.